تخسر الميزان والأرض وضعها للأنام فيها فاكهة والنخل ذات الأكمام والحب ذو العصف والريحان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Jazakallah, Brother Ali Zain. At this time, I will request that Brother Ali Zain recite Mankabat with Allah salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.
محمد وآل محمد صلوات. کیا کیا نہ زمانے میں ہوا نام علی سے، کیا کیا نہ زمانے میں ہوا نام علی سے، اللہ کو پہچانا گیا، اللہ کو پہچانا گیا نام علی سے، کیا کیا نہ زمانے میں ہوا نام علی سے، ہوا سے ملے حضرت آدم جو دوبارہ، ہوا سے ملے حضرت آدم جو دوبارہ، مقبول ہوئی ان کی دعا نام علی سے، کیا کیا نہ زمانے میں ہوا نام علی سے، خیبر کا وہ میدان ہو یا بدر و احد ہو، خیبر کا وہ میدان ہو یا بدر و احد ہو، اسلام نے پائی ہے بقا نام علی سے، کیا کیا نہ زمانے میں ہوا نام علی سے، دیتے ہیں علی والے جو مسجد میں اذانیں، دیتے ہیں علی والے جو مسجد میں اذانیں، ہوتا ہے مسلمان خفا نام علی سے، کیا کیا نہ زمانے میں ہوا نام علی سے، تلوار اٹھانے کی ضرورت ہی نہیں ہے، تلوار اٹھانے کی ضرورت ہی نہیں ہے، کر دوں گا میں منکر کو فنا نام علی سے، یار یار کیا کیا نہ زمانے میں ہوا نام علی سے۔ عقیدے کا شعر پیش کرنا چاہوں گا۔ اس نام سے پرکھی گئی نسلوں کی طہارت، اس نام سے پرکھی گئی نسلوں کی طہارت، چلتا ہے منافق کا پتہ نام علی سے، یار کیا کیا نہ زمانے میں ہوا نام علی سے، ہر چیز پہ قادر ہے فقط ذات محمد، ہر چیز پہ قادر ہے فقط ذات محمد، اس کا بھی ہر ایک کام بنا نام علی سے، کیا کیا نہ زمانے میں ہوا نام علی سے، اللہ کو پہچانا گیا، اللہ کو پہچانا گیا نام علی سے، کیا کیا نہ زمانے میں ہوا نام علی سے، اور محمد و آل محمد صلوات. آپ آ رہے ہیں دوبارہ؟ پارے دیگر نعرے صلوات. تو علی کی کرتا ہے ہم سری، تو علی کی کرتا ہے ہم سری، یہ تیرے ضمیر کی بھول ہے، تجھ میں علی کی ولا نہیں، تجھ میں علی کی ولا نہیں، تیری بندگی بھی فضول ہے، تو علی کی کرتا ہے ہم سری، تو علی کی کرتا ہے ہم سری، یہ جو کر رہا ہے تو سختیاں میرے پیار کا ہے یہ امتحان، تجھے تخت پر بھی سکون نہیں، مجھے دار پر بھی ملی امان، میں دوں کو کیوں نہ دوں کہوں، میں دوں کو کیوں نہ دوں کہوں، میری زندگی کا اصول ہے، میں مروں تو لب پہ ہو یا علی، میں مروں تو لب پہ ہو یا علی، مجھے ایسا مرنا قبول ہے، تو علی کی کرتا ہے ہم سری، تو علی کی کرتا ہے ہم سری، وہ علی جو والا انما، وہ علی جو حاصل کل کفا، اسے کیا کہوں تو خود بتا، چلو تجھ پہ چھوڑا یہ فیصلہ، جس حق نے بخشا ہے तबा जिस हक ने बख्शा है मर्तबा, जो अज़ल से शौहर बतूल है, रहा जागता तो इमाम था, रहा जागता तो इमाम था, कभी सो गया तो रसूल है, तू अली की करता है हम सरी, तू अली की करता है हम सरी। और मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु।
Jazakallah, Brother Ali Zen. One more loud salawat for the brother. At this time, I'd like to invite Brother Hassan Abbas Kanani for recitation Mankabat with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ale Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum. Eid Ghadir Mubarak to everyone, and above all to the Imam of our time. Bawaz bulantar salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I'm going to begin with a English nasheed. I'll just recite a few verses of it. Those that were at the ziyarat with Ark of Salvation, they'll have a special place in their heart for this nasheed, as we got the chance to listen to this in the city of our first Imam. Nare Haydari, Bawaz bulantar salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. As I recite this nasheed, I will benefit from y'all's support. So if you can repeat the main line after me, that would be much appreciated, especially the younger ones with the louder voices. Our path is Ali, our guide is Ali, Mawla Ali, Mawla Ali. Our path is Ali, our guide is Ali, Mawla Ali, Mawla Ali. So I want you to repeat the Mawla Ali, Mawla Ali. Our path is Ali, our guide is Ali, Mawla Mawla Ali. Our path is Ali, our guide is Ali, Mawla Ali. In the world of love I saw him myself, a beloved who quenches a lover's thirst. In the world of love I saw him myself, a beloved who quenches a lover's thirst. If they put you last, then I'll count from last. If they put you last, then I'll count from last. For my first is Ali, my thirst is Ali, my first is Ali, my last is Ali. Mawla Ali, Mawla Ali, Mawla Ali. Ali, our path is Ali, our guide is Ali, Mawla Ali, Mawla Ali. And those that have been to Najaf, I want you to, close your eyes and visualize the dome of the Haram of Imam Ali. When I see your shrine, I know that I'm home. You're the King of Kings, Najaf's your throne. When I see your shrine, I know that I'm home. You're the King of Kings, Najaf's your throne. With you by my side, I am never alone. With you by my side, I'm never alone. walking Quran, Ali in my adhan, Ali, walking Quran, Ali in my adhan, Ali, Mawla Ali, Mawla Ali, Mawla Ali, Mawla Ali. Recite with me. Mawla Ali, Mawla Ali. All our hearts your love struggle to contain, to describe your words can't explain. Your mercy we seek, Ya Aba Hasnain, your mercy we seek, Ya Aba Hasnain. Huwa Khaybar Ali, only Haydar Ali, Huwa Khaybar Ali, only Haydar Ali, and my thirst is Ali, and my first is Ali. Mawla Ali, Mawla Ali, Mawla Ali, Mawla Ali. Bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. I'm keeping tabs on the time, so I do still have 5-6 more minutes, so I'll be reciting a kalam in Urdu as well. It's a great kalam recited by Mukhtar Hussain Fatehpuri. Bawaz bulantar salawat. Khushnudi Imam Zamana, Bawaz bulantar salawat. بسد شکوہ فشیر و نذیر آ پہنچے بسد شکوہ فشیر و نذیر آ پہنچے لیے صحابہ کا جم غفیر آ پہنچے زنان و طفل و صغیر و کبیر آ پہنچے قبول حج کے لیے سب غدیر آ پہنچے ندائے آئی کہ شاہ و وزیر آتے ہیں امیر بل جناب امیر آتے ہیں امیر بل جناب امیر آتے ہیں امیر بل جناب امیر آتے ہیں بھرا ہوا میں توحید کا ہے جام غدیر خاص توجہ کا طالب بھرا ہوا میں توحید کا ہے جام غدیر وہ جس کو پڑھتا ہے قرآن وہ کلام غدیر خدا کے دین کا ہے آخری پیام غدیر نماز جس سے ہے قائم وہی قیام غدیر خم غدیر کے پیغام سے جو غافل ہے تو ایسے شخص کا روزہ نماز باطل ہے تو ایسے شخص کا روزہ نماز باطل ہے تو ایسے شخص کا روزہ نماز باطل ہے نیا خطیب تھا منبر نیا بنایا گیا نیا خطیب تھا منبر نیا بنایا گیا علی ولی ہے یہ پیغام پھر سنایا گیا اور اس کے بعد وہ منبر نیا مٹایا گیا بنا کے اور مٹا کے یہی بتایا گیا کہ تو کبھی نہ یہ کہنا کہ ہے کسی کا ہے ولایتوں کا یہ منبر فقط علی کا ہے ولایتوں حیدری ولایتوں का ये मिंबर फकत गली का है। अली है अमीर खुदा अली है अमीर खुदा और खुद अमीर भी है। अली खुदा की नज़र और खुद नज़ीर भी है। खुदा की सिलत सफ़र भी अली सफ़ीर भी है। छुपा के खुद को ये सब अली गुरूर बशर भी है और बशीर भी है। मिटा के एक नई दुनिया बना भी सकता है। जला भी सकता है मुर्दे जला भी सकता है। जला भी सकता है मुर्दे जला भी सकता है। अली वली है ये हुक्म खालिके गफ़ार। अली के दम से है कायम विलायतों की बहार। है ताबा हश्र अली ही गदीर का मुख्तार। सुताबा हश्र माजिद हमारी भी है पुकार। उन्हें बता दो कि ये कहते हैं गलत है गदीर कि सबके बाप के शजरों पे दस्तखत है गदीर कि सबके बाप के शजरों पे दस्तखत है गदीर। अमीर बन जनाबे अमीर आते हैं। पर मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद सलवात।
Jazakallah, brother Hassan Abbas Kanani. One more loud salawat for him. Respected Shaykh, elders, brothers and sisters of faith, Assalamu alaikum. Congratulations to all the Mu'mineen on the auspicious event of Eid al-Ghadir and the birth of Imam Hadi alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala. Tonight we are honored to host Shaykh Mahdi here at CFK. Jazakallah Shaykh for once again accepting our invitation. We are grateful for your presence and excited to listen to your speech. Just a few reminders before I request the Shaykh to begin. Tomorrow night, July 7th at 9:15 p.m., there will be a workshop for brothers and sisters, an active shooter workshop. This session is designed to equip the community members with the knowledge and skills needed to respond effectively in the event of an active shooter situation. Led by experienced professionals in the field, this workshop will cover topics such as recognizing warning signs, developing an emergency action plan, and implementing effective strategies for survival. Don't miss out on this invaluable opportunity to enhance your community's safety and preparedness. Join to take a proactive step towards protecting yourself and those around you. After Ghadir, inshallah, as we begin to look towards the upcoming month of Muharram, the City of Knowledge will be holding the first Ashra, a majlis in English. We are honored to have Sheikh Amin Rastani for this year's Ashra. The programs are scheduled to begin at 6:45 p.m. with Ziyarat-e-Ashura and will be ending with Salat and 2 Go Niyaz. We will also be having 2 private majalis during the Ashra. The first being an Urdu majlis hosted by Brother Sultan Rizvi at 7:30 in the morning here at CFK with Maulana Mudassir Musfi Shah. The second being a Farsi majlis with Sheikh Amin Rastani immediately after Salat al-Maghriban. The event details for both will be communicated shortly. Here at CFK, we aim to serve the community while being responsible with your donations, as it is your contribution that enables us to bring to you great speakers and keeps our doors open. We also do not do any fundraising between programs. Sponsorship slots are available online. We request that you contribute as you can and become part of the Azadari of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Sponsorship slots are available online and updated every week at cfkdfw.org. We would like to remind parents our toddlers in our community about our dedicated mother's room. This room has a live feed of the program. It has been set up so that toddlers can be accompanied by their mothers and the young ones can get accustomed to listening and sitting to programs in a lighter, less restrictive setting. With this, we hope to bring ease to all of us in these upcoming nights and help keep noise to a minimum during the program. At this time, inshallah, I would like to invite Shaykh Mahdi for his speech tonight, and I would like to ask the brothers and sisters to move forward as close as possible to member with Allah salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Excellent. Is that okay? Yeah, I think we just may need to cut the echo, inshallah. Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة على رسول الله وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه المنتجبين سيما بقية الله في الأرضين عجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك توعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. Dearest brothers and sisters, respected scholars, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen that we're gathered together on what is truly not just an auspicious occasion, but the most auspicious of occasions. And I know that it feels a lot of things in our tradition seem to be incredibly important, and they all are. But if we were going to rank and prioritize, then this day of Ghadir has to rank really high up there. You know, we're told it's the Eid of Eids, Eidullah al-Akbar. So that's kind of a pretty lofty title, considering that all of the things that we do are pretty passionate to begin with. We generally don't have gatherings that are not incredibly important to us and don't strike at our core of who we are as people and as Muslims and as Shias. But this one really is in its class of its own. Now, again, I don't say this to mean that others are less important. Of course, we all know where our time, where our affinities, where our love, where our affections should lie. But definitely this day of Ghadir should be one that should not be considered second tier. Whatever that means to us, it's important for us to kind of underscore that point. Now there's a kind of like a historical reason for that. There's maybe like a denominational reason for that, but kind of putting all of those aside, just looking at it as like a intra-community issue, it's really important that we kind of pull out all the stops when it comes to our celebration and our appreciation and our recognition of this day of Ghadir. So I know I'm preaching to the choir here in many ways. I just want to express how joyous of an occasion this is for myself, and also to try and share in that joy with each and every one of you, brothers and sisters in Islam, in Iman, and of course in wilaya. Now, I want to share just a few reflections. These are reminders really, because all of you are very well versed in the tradition of wilaya. If we kind of associate with anything as who we are as Muslims, we associate with the wilaya of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wassalam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Is this echo okay? Like, is the voice okay? Am I clear? Okay, alhamdulillah. Sorry. So I want to share a few of these reflections and reminders, especially in presence of all you, especially in the presence of our respected scholars. Speaking of this status of Ghadir, I was reviewing one of the statements that Marhum al-Khuwaini has on this day of Ghadir. He's speaking, of course, to a group of kind of high-ranking senior officials just a few years after the revolution. But he's trying to establish for them more so than maybe the general populace why this day is important, why this event is important, and why it's supposed to inform kind of everything that they're trying to accomplish. A lot of the struggles, a lot of the frustrations, maybe a lot of the pressure that they feel in trying to advance what is kind of like an Islamic way of living. This is supposed to serve as kind of like a master key to unlock a lot of these problems, a lot of these locks. And he speaks about the status of Ghadir, and he makes a very kind of like delicate point. And this point I have to read a few times, not just to conceptually understand what he's saying, but to try and appreciate, not fully appreciate because I don't think I have, but to begin to appreciate a little bit of what he was trying to tell that group, and of course what remains as a lesson in history. So I'm just going to share that quote. He says that Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam, that honorable existence that was the source of all facets of human excellence, he was the cause of this event of Ghadir taking place. Let's just pause for 1 second. We all kind of know the history. We know the Quranic kind of presentation and preparation for this event. The Prophet is given divine instruction, right? That part's clear. And then the event of Ghadir happens. Then the ayahs are also revealed of Ikmal al-Din and Itmam al-Ni'mah. That's there. So of course, Imam Ali is going to be the cause of all this. If it was not for that, then why even have Ghadir? I'm going to reread that statement again. He says that Imam Ali alayhi salam, that honorable existence that was the source of all facets of human excellence, he caused the event of Ghadir to take place. So he says Ghadir, in and of itself, is not a valuable event. Let's just pump the brakes a second. Ghadir, in and of itself, that means stripped of the person of Imam Ali. That event in and of itself is not meritorious, it's not valuable, it is not invaluable. He says it is Ghadir that follows the value of Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam. So it's not that we count the Ghadir as a spiritual station of the Imam. It's to say, why is my Imam better than yours? Why is my leader better than yours? Why is my Mawla better than yours? Because Allah awarded him or Allah gifted him with this station. You know, it's kind of like saying, I have blood relations with this individual, I have close relationship with this individual, so that makes me, you know, a better or more suitable candidate than you. So the person is given that, and then through that they gain status. I am the son of the king. I may be a worthy leader myself, but just through the relationship that I have with my father, I am given keys to the throne, and I train myself, or I am raised to be a capable leader too. But ultimately, what comes first? What comes first? Me being a prince, not me being necessarily a good leader. Here, Imam Khomeini is saying that it is who Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam was that caused the event of Ghadir to come. He says it is not Ghadir that counts as a spiritual station for the Imam. Rather, it is the spiritual stations of the Imam that allow Ghadir to manifest. Which means this. I know sometimes it's hard to figure out kind of like from a theological and historical standpoint, but what was going to happen? Ultimately, the Prophet had to designate someone, correct? Isn't how many of us think of it this way? Well, the Prophet had to designate someone, and the best of them was Imam Ali. Right here, the point that he's making is don't think of it that way. It's a wrong way of thinking of it. Why? Because it makes him better than all the rest. Right? He is better than those that he's compared with. That's why he's chosen. No. That's not what's happening here, he's telling us. The position was created because of the status of this person. The position didn't exist before. You say, okay, every company needs a CEO, and now of the best people that's available, we choose this person, this man, this woman. But imagine if you create a new position altogether because you have an employee, you have a worker, you have an individual that is worthy and capable of doing a certain task. That's what's happening here in Ghadir. Now I know it's sometimes a little difficult to figure out what's the difference between the two of them, but thinking about it a little bit and looking back, see, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestows a responsibility or a station to an individual, it is always that way. They demonstrate their readiness, their preparedness, their worthiness, and then they are awarded a position like that. Just like in the case of Ibrahim alayhi salam. After he goes through all of those trials, after he ascends all of those stations, then we made him Imam. Inni ja'alika fil ardi Imam. Fil nasi Imam. You were made an Imam then. Those positions are created for you then. So in Ghadir, we're really kind of like trying to better understand what it means for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to create a position like that of imamat. And hence, when you have sometimes reflections on, well, why did the Muslim community not understand? Why did all the events that happened after happen? Because it's a delicate point. Because it's a new position that was created. Because unless a person is worthy of that, they cannot even appreciate what is happening. So what happens? Naturally, the people cannot fully value what it is. Circumstances change, so to speak. Turbulent event happens, and the people have to, the community has to, in my own words, kind of call an audible. Call an audible and make a decision. If you're kind of a student of history, you'll see that even those who were participants in that act later say, well, this wasn't maybe the best course of action. It's because of something like this. Now, what does that mean for us? Again, brother, you're preaching to the choir here. In trying for us to celebrate this day, right? That appreciation of that day requires us to kind of get to the crux of what's happening here. Imam Rida alayhi salatu wasalam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. In a conversation that he's having with the son of Abi Nasr, he's telling him, "O son of Abi Nasr," on the status of this day of Ghadir. He says, wherever you are, try your best to spend this day in the presence of the grave of Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam. Go do ziyarah on that day. Now, whether from near proximity, you're actually going and you're physically there, or at least, you can make ziyarah from afar. But if you can, spend the day physically there. It says, certainly on this day, Allah from every believing man and woman forgives the sin of 60 years of theirs. We say a lifetime. I don't know what the kind of average lifetime is right now. Spanning up, is spanning down, but it's almost a lifetime. And Allah frees them from the punishment of the hellfire. Twice as much as it's done in the month of Ramadan, on the night of Ghadir, and on the night of Eid al-Fitr. Those months generally, you see one of the prominent themes, and rightly so, is this notion of kind of freeing those who are kind of like in the bondages of either slavery or in the bondages of their own slaves of their own sins. Well, Allah says even double that what happens in those days that are seen as kind of like the apex of that forgiveness that happens on this day of Ghadir. And paying 1 dirham, the Imam says, is equivalent to 1,000 dirhams paid in other times. And on this day, be kind, beneficent, open-handed to your brothers, your believing sisters, and try to make every believing man and woman happy. So it should be a joyous occasion. It should be a day where people are happy and celebrate, but celebrate, again, for the right reasons. Celebrate truly understanding what this day means to them. And the Imam ends and he says, by Allah, if people knew the preference and the value that this day has truly, then the angels would be greeting them, or in the words of the Raya, would be shaking their hands 10 times a day. That means this person would be in constant communication with the angels. That's how high their status would be. So really all it takes is for us, as those who are so close, speaking for myself, well, maybe not so close, but on your behalf, believing brothers and sisters, we're so close from transitioning from one state of relationship with the Ahlul Bayt to the next. It's really just to understand the value and the meaning of this day. Okay. Now, there's so many amal, there's so many adab, there's so many etiquettes to be performed on the night of Ghadir and on the day of Ghadir. So them, there are fasting to be done, there's ghusl to be done, there's ziyarah to be recited, there's du'as to be recited. And one of the things that's really simple, because it's the shortest of all of them, you got to fast the whole day. It's really hot here. Ghusl, it's the middle of the day, you get a moment, you don't get a moment. Dua sometimes it may be long, it may not be a familiar dua, you may struggle to read it, but whatever it is, there's a greeting that we are instructed to exchange with one another, right? And all of us know, and I hope that we're teaching our children this too. as much as we just said, I just said Salaam alaikum, Salaam alaikum, Salaam alaikum, Salaam alaikum. In addition to that, on this day, there needs to be a special greeting, right? And there's a few of them, but probably the most famous one is what? Any of the younger kids tell me? I wish I had some prizes to hand out. I hope there's some prizes here for us to hand out at some point. Someone quickly run to the store and buy something. Alhamdulillah alladhi ja'alana min al-mutamassakin biwalayati aliyin amir al-mu'minin. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ahla baytih. Okay. So this is a greeting that believing people exchange with one another on this day. Praise be to Allah, alhamdulillah, that made ja'alana, that made us, min al-mutamassakin, of those people who do tamassuk, to the wilaya of Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam. So maybe the only part of this statement that's a little bit unclear, because the wilaya part is very clear, right? And the other words are, it's just mutamassik, mutamassakin. What does that mean? Tamassuk, imsak, mask, means for someone to grip and hold firmly to something. You know, like وَاعْتَصَمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا, like that one. I'tisam. Tamassuk. Tamassuk is like, imagine like you hold your hands around something, you don't let it leave. You're trying to trap it because you want it. You don't want it to, but also you protect it too. It's not like, you know, God forbid sometimes, you know, kids that are not, they don't have the adab islami, they want to like show their strength and power to some, you know, defenseless creature, they kind of like corner it and then they do with it what they shouldn't do. Here you have to corner that thing and then also you have to protect it. So not only does it not escape, but it doesn't perish. That's what tamassuk means. So Allah, thank you for making us of those people who do tamassuk. This wilaya that has come, first we preserve it. We don't let it go away. We don't take it for granted. But also we're protective over it to make sure it doesn't what? It doesn't decay. Now again, I'm going back to a statement of to help us understand. He says, what is the meaning of tamassuk? What does it mean for us to just say this greeting of Alhamdulillah alladhi ja'alana min al-mutamassikin wa la ta'alina amil mu'minin? Is this something we can just say and pass by? Well, didn't we just say it's a greeting to exchange? What's the nature of it? You exchange a greeting and it's done. He says, no, it's not something that we can just kind of, on this special day, remember to say it and then move past it as a formality. He says, what does this tamassuk really mean? This tamassuk is for a person to acknowledge that wilaya, tamassuk of wilaya, first is tamassuk of wilaya, not any other qualifier. Sometimes we get a little confused because we're supposed to have mahabbat of Ahlul Bayt, we're supposed to have love of Ahlul Bayt, we're supposed to have affection of Ahlul Bayt. That's really important. And he says too, he says that's an important element. So a lot of times it's a prerequisite. But tamassuk to wilaya, not tamassuk to mahabbat. Two different things. I love Ahlul Bayt and my love for them is, okay, good. But that's a different thing than what we're saying. We're gripping firmly, we're holding firmly to the wilaya of Ahlul Bayt. Not just the love that we have for them. Love we have for them, alhamdulillah, we do it. What does that mean? It means that the example that the Imam set for us, we're protecting and preserving that. The example the Imam set with us in his wilaya. Wilaya, you know, means intense relationship, right? Close relationship. Impenetrable relationship. So Khwani says, he's preserving and protecting that thing. And unsurprisingly, only those who have a little bit of an appreciation of the day of Ghadir are going to look at the Imam that way. You go ask any Muslim, do you have love and affection for Ahlul Bayt? Yes. It's become more and more kind of like mainstream now, if you've noticed. Those of you who kind of like follow like interreligious, interdenominational, you want to call it sectarian, whatever you want to call it, you can see there's definitely more of a push for outward expression, popular expression of love of Ahlul Bayt. Love of Imam Ali alayhi salam. So of the Khulafa Rashidun. The Prophet said this, and that about him. Right? But that's different from what? Tamassuk. Tamassuk to wilaya. He is one amongst others. So here, when we say, Alhamdulillah, ja'alana min mutamassikin, means we see this as something different than others. We see it in a class of its own. And our relationship with that individual and that institution is also different from all other relationships. The nature of it is different from all other relationships. So it says we are trying to follow as best as we can, preserve and protect as best as we can this example of the Imam and how we're supposed to orient and kind of balance our lives. Now, of all the things that we can say about Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam, the one thing that kind of stands front and center, not only to those who love him, not only to those who like him, not only to those who support him, but also those who are neutral towards him, those who may not be so fond of him, those who may be enemies of his is what? That's what Al-Khawani says. He says that he was a true practitioner of justice. These two words are synonymous. Imam Ali alayhi salam and truth and justice. Aliyun ma'al haq wal haqu ma'ali. This is like, it's such a difficult statement to make. You're equating two things. These two are inseparable. Aliyun ma'al haq wal haqu ma'ali. So for us who are doing tamassuk, right? That's the main takeaway of tonight is tamassuk. How that tamassuk is supposed to occur. How are we doing that to the wilaya of Ahlul Bayt? This is a riwayah that really, when I first saw it, I was like, wow, how can Imam make a statement like this? It's narrated from Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam. He says, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Says, wilayati لعلي ibn Abi Talib alayhi السلام أحب إلي من ولادتي من. So all of us were saying we love to be in a relationship of wilaya with the Imam, right? Just like Allah has wilaya over those who have iman, Allahu waliyu alladhina amanu, so too the Imam has wilaya over the believing men and women. So you and I aspire to be in a relationship of wilaya. Even the Imams themselves, during or before their station of imamat, they are also kind of engaging in the relationship of wilaya, which means they're also doing tamassuk. They're also doing tamassuk. It says, my relationship of wilaya, now Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, my relationship of wilaya to Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam is more beloved to me, is more beautiful to me, is more valuable to me than my blood relationship to him. See? What's the strongest love a person can have? The love of a father to a child to a mother, The Imam is saying, what's stronger than that even? What's more valuable to me than that? What's more beloved to me than that is the relationship of wilaya that I enjoy with my Imam. لأن ولايتي له فرض وولادتي منه فضل. It's not like one is unimportant. Saying the reason why I feel this way is because the relationship of wilaya that I have with him is a duty, fardun. But the blood relationship that I have with is a source of grace, it's a source of favor that God has given me. I didn't choose to be born in this family, but being born in this family is a great bounty that God has given him, no doubt about it. But the gift of being in relationship with wilaya is even more valuable and beloved to me than that. I told you, Shaykh Hadi, one of the great scholars that works in the realm of hadith, he's put a lot of books together compiling works of Ahlul Bayt. He says this is a really beautiful and it's a profound riwayah. It's a powerful message. It's a lesson to be learned here. The Imam is explaining to us, though both of these things are valuable, he says that one is fard, one is fadl. You can't compare a wajib and a mustahab act together, right? You do all the mustahab prayers night and day. But how does that compare to one wajib prayer? Incomparable. It truly is. One is a duty, one is an obligation, one has to be there. The other one is good, it's extra, it's supererogatory, it's good that you have it. But one without the other is worthless. And we know because we're students of history of so many people that are even in blood relationship with the Imams, they don't turn out to have the best of outcomes. So it's not just proximity by blood that's going to make anything happen. It is accepting and then also engaging in that relationship of wilaya. The great example of Salman al-Farisi, or Salman al-Muhammadi, as he was correctly kind of given that title by the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. Salman al-Muhammadi, he was not a blood relative of Ahlul Bayt. Yet, he had achieved station of wilaya. And they turned to him, Minna Ahlul Bayt. You belong to us. What relationship there? Not blood. Relationship of wilaya. So this is what we're after here. On a day like this, on nights like these, when we're coming and we're expressing, we're exchanging those greetings to one another, we're saying, whatever family we belong to, whatever tribe we belong to, wherever we live, whatever time we live in, what's more valuable to us, what's more kind of like delicate and cherishable to us is our ability to engage in this relationship with wilaya. Once, Sa'd ibn Abdul Malik, he's the son of Abdul Aziz, son of Marwan. Doesn't belong to a great family. But he was a good person. He was an excellent person. To the extent that Imam al-Baqir alayhi salatu wasalam named him Sa'd al-Khair. Sometimes they give him these kind of titles to show really their stature. One day, Imam saw Sa'd and he was crying, just like bawling his eyes out. And Imam, of course, inquired, what's going on? Why are you crying like this? And he said that the reason I'm crying is because I belong to a tribe, I belong to a family, I belong to a people that they have kind of like received God's wrath. Quran speaks about two types of trees, right? That serves as a root for a family, a root for a tribe. A shajara that's tayyibah and shajara that's khabitha. وَمَثَلُ كَلِمَةٍ خَبِيثَةٍ كَشَجَرَةٍ خَبِيثَةٍ. Says, I belong to the shajara khabitha. I'm an Umayyad. So whoever I am, whatever I do, I can't, distance myself from that. Some people, I'm cursed by the family that I live in. If only my mother and father was someone else. If only my uncle and aunt was someone else. Imam Baqir calmed him down. He says, don't cry. He says, you don't belong to that tree. The one that the Quran is speaking about, that's not you. It's not talking about you. Haven't you heard the statement that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes on the part of Ibrahim alayhi salatu salam, where he says, Rabbi innahunna adlalna kathiran min al-nas, faman tabi'ani fa innahu minni. People have misguided and sent away and deviated a lot of the people. Whoever follows me, they are of me. They belong to me. So Ibrahim is saying, those who are of my family, are of my tree, are those who follow my path. Sa'd becomes calm. These reminders are there for those who are truly striving to tell them, don't worry about what society says about who you are and what you are, what value they assign to you. Know that your value is derived in the relationship that you have with us, the relationship with wilaya that you have. Through that medium will not only you give your kind of your otherworldly salvation, but your sense of self-respect and dignity and value will be found fully and fully in that. So it's the manifesting of that justice that we're after. Now, we know the core value of Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam, especially as it presented itself in his time, his short rule, was this notion of justice. Let me give you a few examples of what that looks like, because we've heard these things. We may have read these things, but they're so powerful. It's like when a person lives in the world that we live in, to hear something so profound as this, to know that it truly happened, it boggles the mind. You cannot even accept it. We know that the people essentially were fed up with the style of ruling that they had received the last few times. So they kind of essentially rushed to the home of the Imam. And we all know that the Imam was incredibly reluctant to accept that. He wasn't interested. The people, in so many words, forced the Imam to accept, if you want to say. The Imam said, I'm going to set some ground rules. Are you sure you know what you're getting into? Remember, because there's no force here, there's no ikrahi here. No one has a gun to their head and say, you have to be wilaya relationship with Ahlul. No. It is a free choice. So the Imam set some ground rules right in the beginning. And interestingly, what he said was, I'm going to kind of, moving forward, we're going to do it this way. He said, no. before we can take any step forward, we have to make sure we right any wrongs that have been done. We have to take steps back. People generally don't want to hear this. Oh, we got momentum. We have to capitalize on the momentum. Imam says no. We're not laying the foundation on a weak foundation, on a questionable foundation. He says, be aware, people. All of the land that the previous Khalifa had gifted away, and the money that was unjustly distributed, all of these shall be returned to the Baytul Mal, to the treasury. And here the Imam makes his statement. It's, again, these are like the kind of those timeless statements. He says, because the passage of time does not eliminate justice. The passage of time does not resolve justice. You know, in this country, there's always kind of this talk of like righting a wrong, you know, reparations, maybe in certain contexts, reparations. See, as much as a person just wants to just say something and say, we forgive and everything is okay, and now let's move on forward from here, it's not as simple as that. When a wrong has been committed, that has to be corrected. Just because 6 months has passed, 1 year has passed, 5 years has passed, 10 years, 300 years has passed, doesn't make the wrong that was done right. Oh, brother, how far back do you want to go before? As far as it takes. As far as it takes. As far as we can say for sure that, you know, we have some part, we have some responsibility, we have some duty. Obviously, Muslim Ummah, the Imam feels a sense of duty and responsibility towards. So I'm going to return all of these to the treasury, to the Baytul Mal. It says, if I get my hands on that wealth, even if it translated into marital gifts, that means it's not like someone is keeping it in some bank account somewhere. Even if it was distributed to the point that people used it in their homes, in some commentaries say, even if it is, you know, kind of like china in cupboards, this is my, you know, even if it becomes something like, this is coming back. Even if they're used as commodities in trades in faraway lands, these will be returned to the Baytul Mal. It says, I shall return them because justice serves as a means of prosperity for society. We want society to truly be prosperous. We want us to grow truly together in a sustainable way. All of the rest of them, they're just churn and burns. Oh, this new model works really well for what? 50 years, 100 years, sometimes even less. What happens? The rot gets out, the stink gets out. People figure out that there's an imbalance, there's an elite, and the majority of people, there's a 1% and a 99%. What happens? Eventually, people will revolt. You know, it has to crash and burn, and they have to start all over. It says, justice serves as a means of prosperity for society. And for the person whom justice creates constriction. It says, فَإِنَّ الْعَدْلَ سَعَى وَمَنْ ضَاقَ عَلَيْهِ الْعَدْلِ. For the person who justice creates constriction. What does that mean? It means if a person, if their kind of like method of success, if their plan for success doesn't factor justice in it, which means I can be very successful, but I'm not necessarily going to be the fairest person. If your kind of architecturing of, engineering of a model of success, if being just in that creates hardship for you, then the Imam says, فَالْجَوْرُ عَلَيْهِ أَضْيَقُ. Then injustice, being unfair, being oppressive will create even more hardship than that. So it's not sustainable. No method of living that includes an element of injustice and oppression and unfairness will be sustainable. And we know as people who believe in accountability, we believe in a day of judgment. وَلَا تَزِرُ وَازِرَةٌ وِزْرَ أُخْرَى فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَى شَرًّا يَرَى. We know all these things, we know. This should kind of like hit close to home for us. So the Imam is saying, I am trying to lead you in a model of a prosperous society that is rooted on justice, because that's going to be, you know, it's going to allow not only the kind of like the entirety of society to share in that prosperity, but it's also going to be sustainable in the long term. All of these other models, they all have expiration dates. And notice how, like I mentioned, all of them have very bloody and kind of very traumatic expirations. So the Imam is setting the people up for something like this. Are you guys ready for this? Do you accept that? Is this valuable to you? One of the things that the Imam really struggled with in this same pursuit. Now you say, okay, well that sounds pretty good, right? Especially because most people would probably feel that they've been wronged. If you take a poll of society, most of society probably feel like I've been wronged. Even some of the elites probably feel like they've been wronged because they're probably not as wealthy and powerful as some of their peers further ahead of them. People feel they're wronged. So it would benefit them for a leader to come and establish justice. But one of the groups that the Imam really struggled with, and it's a common struggle amongst all prophets, is the elite of society. Now remember, we're speaking about a Muslim community now. But even a Muslim community can have elites. And those elites necessarily did not kind of acquire their status through just means. So the Imam says, be aware, kind of take notice. If you make me your leader, and I come and I prohibit or I take back some of the things that you had acquired during this time period unjustly, like land, like wealth, like, horses, like women, whatever it is that you got as a result of that status and an unjust, I'm going to take this back. Just don't turn around and say, the son of Abu Talib is taking our right from us, is stealing our possessions from us, is committing an injustice against us. Don't say those things. Because this is what you're asking for. Now, who would you think would have a problem with this statement? Well, the person who says, oh, I didn't get anything. I got a smaller share. They're probably not going to say much. But the people who did gain, the people who did get wealthy, the people who did get powerful, those are the ones first and foremost who are going to come and say, well, there's a problem here. And that's exactly what happened. They say, oh, these were not good people. They're probably just in it for the money. No, that's not true. Plenty of well-established, you want to say at least for the most part, I don't know, or maybe at some point well-intentioned, sincere individuals, strong companions of the Prophet. And you know their names, you know their personalities because they're kind of referenced in other instances. Some of the armed resistances that the Imam had, the wars that the Imam had, these individuals show up, sometimes on kind of the wrong side. But these people would come to the Imam and they would start to find fault and be critical. In a few instances, Imam began to distribute Baytul Mal. He said to Muhajir, give 3 dirham. To Ansar, give 3 dirham. To the black, give 3 dirham. To the white, give 3 dirham. To the Arab, 3 dirham. To the Ajam, 3 dirham. Someone who's getting 20 dirham is going to have a problem with that. So these companions would come to the Imam. Interestingly, when the Imam began to distribute like this, equally, fairly, some of them didn't even accept. Right? How can you kind of indirectly show your disapproval? Don't participate. So some of them just in the beginning straight up didn't accept from the Imam. Then they came to the presence of the Imam. In one instance, 2 of these individuals came to the Imam, and those of you know them in Battle of Jamal. Anyway, well-established companions of the Prophet. They came to the Imam and they began to criticize. Said, listen, we used to get this much. The last Khalifa and the Khalifa before him used to give us this much. Now you're coming to, fine, but why does it have to impact us this way? The Imam said, okay. You received this much from the last Khalifa and the Khalifa before? Okay. Did you receive from Baytul Mal during the time of the Prophet? Prophet was distributing Baytul Mal too, correct? How much did you receive from the Prophet? They both kept quiet. Okay, so he asks them, is the sunnah of the Prophet superior or the sunnah of the prior Khalifas? And both of these people are, again, they're learned enough to know. So of course the sunnah of the Prophet. But again, the struggle is real, as they say. So that statement didn't remain unqualified. But, there's always a but we enjoy certain privileges and superiorities. Why? Because we are peoples who had proximity to the Prophet. We struggled in the way of Islam when maybe others didn't. We had to tolerate the challenges of being a Muslim in days where there was no benefit in doing so. And because of that, we are deserving of something more. Now that sounds like a fair statement. I have longer tenure. I have more experience. Why should I be compensated the same as someone who, new hire? Right, fresh out of school, so to speak. Why do I get the same? I should get more. Imam said, let me correct you. It is true that you enjoy a privilege, you enjoy a superiority, you enjoy a fadl, a distinction through your proximity with the Prophet and through the efforts that you made. But know that that is a divine gift, a divine proximity, a divine favor, a divine blessing, a divine preference, not a worldly one. You've translated it incorrectly. True, no one is taking that away from you. No one is to say, oh, it's unimportant what you did. No, it's very important. But it doesn't mean necessarily that you're deserving of more in a material sense. He gets 3, I get 3. And the Imam then turned around and said, this person sitting next to me, this ajir. Ajir is the person you hire to do a job. He just happened to be one of the workers of the Imam, ghulam of Imam. He says, this ajir and I, as a distributor of Baytul Mal, we get the same amount. He said, am I closer to the Prophet? Do I kind of enjoy more of that privilege, that status, or you two? Nothing to say here. So, yes, this is of course a fazilat of the Imam. But the kind of the finer point that's being made here is that in times where a community kind of like agrees to establish their plan of action, their modus operandi on justice, it requires sometimes very hard decisions and very difficult sacrifices that have to come this way. It sometimes requires a change in the way that we do things, and it may impact us in ways that we may not be prepared for. Will the love for wilaya also be that strong then? That's the distinction between mahabba and the distinction between wilaya. Because mahabba says, Ya Ali, I love you even if you hate me. Oh, how is that even going to happen? But someone says this, Ya Ali, even if you push me away, I will still love you. Good. It's a lesson we take from Dua Kumail, right? Imam is telling Allah, even if you throw me in the depths of hell, I will still call out that I love you. Okay, that's good. MashaAllah. But wilaya, you cannot do that. You cannot say, Ya Ali, you push me all the way from you, but I will still be in your wilaya. No. You can't do that anymore. Oh, Imam, if you instruct me to do something, am I willing and am I able to do that? That's the question of wilaya. So now the Imam of our time for justice. No, it's not just when he returns, but he said, time for justice now. Am I willing potentially to make certain changes even though I feel like I am deserving of them? And especially when I receive a pretty kind of like well-explained, warranted response. It was tough. Even those established companions, for them it was tough. So the Imam was driving this kind of spirit of justice in society. Sometimes people would really get upset with the changes that occurred. And I don't want to give some of the smaller examples that we have kind of in our own kind of day-to-day lives, because in the grander scheme of things, they're like, it's no big deal. But I kind of remembered this when I read this riwayah. Sometimes we feel like this, this problem of immigration in this country. All these outsiders are coming and taking away what's ours. A lot of us really feel so truly American that, we kick the ladder from behind us once we get up. Anyway, as Islam was expanding, a lot of non-traditional peoples were entering into the fold of Islam. One of these troublemakers was he had a low tolerance to see these people. During the time of Imam Ali's reign, even before that, Imam Ali had freed a group of slaves that were of non-Arab origin, many of them of Iranian origin. They looked different, they acted different, maybe they ate different, they dressed different. So the Imam was ruling in Kufa. These people would come, they would come to the masjid, they would listen to the Imam's speeches. I know this is not in the kind of the text, but I would imagine, if I'm thinking myself, maybe those were the people that would come like sit up front, kind of surround the Imam, really be the, I don't want to say goody two-shoes, but those who were really truly kind of like in love, and they were running after the Imam, and they truly wanted to better themselves. One of these troublemakers, Ashas ibn Qais, he stood up one day and he said, Ya Ali, these, and they had a title that they would call them essentially to designate that they were people who were previously slaves. It's like, essentially these slaves, these outsiders, these new to comes, these are outnumbering us, right? These non-Arabs are coming in and they're outnumbering us here. And you're not doing anything about it. If anything, you're welcoming them. And he continues on his rant, and then at the end he says, today I shall show who the Arab is and what the Arab shall do. I said, sit down, be quiet. These people that you think are, again, I'm trying to draw a parallel here, even though it may not be a great parallel. A lot of times these racist xenophobes, these Mexicans are coming and they're taking all of our jobs, right? Something to this effect. Imam turned around and said, just be quiet. While you with your full bellies sleep on your comfortable beds, I'm paraphrasing here, these peoples are working in the, in excruciating heat, and they're sleeping and living in very simple circumstances. Why would I turn these people away and join you among the group of oppressors? Doesn't make any sense. But every one of these groups will have these kind of loudmouths that just cannot come to terms with changing circumstances, especially as it's rooted in justice. And I'll end with this because I know we're out of time and we're approaching the time of Adhan. Imam was so sensitive towards establishment of justice in Baytul Mal and also his kind of interactions with other peoples. It's so confident. Like, it's not an arrogance, it's a confidence. In one report, the Imam says, O Kufans, when I leave this world for the hereafter, if the possessions that I leave behind are beyond my home and a vehicle, and it says markab, like a horse or a donkey or whatever. Just imagine a home and a vehicle. Then you can say that I was a traitor. That's how confident the Imam feels in his dealings with Baytul Mal and distributing to people. When it came to his family, one day a gift was sent to the Imam's home, expensive gift, it was jewelry. His daughter Kulthum opened it up, assumed it was a gift for the family, personal gift, and says, can I wear this? It's nice. Can I put it around my neck? Can I beautify myself with this? Imam told his worker immediately, take this to the Baytul Mal, to the treasury, lock it there, no one is going to touch this. You're only allowed to wear this when all of the Muslim women also wear jewelry resembling that. Starting from family. Nepotism, favoritism, no way. When it dealt with his kind of public servants, and all of this letter to Malika Ashtar, his public servants, he would tell them, he said that if I see any of you abusing your power, if I see any of you playing favorites, if I see any of you taking advantage of your position to take more of the Baytul Mal, I work harder than others. I put in more hours, whatever it is. I have this much experience. My title is this, their title is that, whatever it is. He says, the Imam will censure them, Imam will immediately remove them from office. In dealing with people in public, the Imam was so equitable. He says when he would go out to the bazaar to buy things, he would try to go and shop from someone who didn't know who he was. Now, how can a person even believe that? Like, let's say the president of a country, who's not going to know who the president is? It shows up. The Imam says he tried to do business with people that didn't know who they were. And I'll give you one example and I'll end with this. He says that one day the Imam was walking in the bazaar of people who sell dates, the date sellers. He came across a younger woman who was sitting there crying. Again, he inquired, what's going on? She said, I'm a worker, I'm a slave. My master sent me out to buy some dates, and I went and bought the dates and I took them home. But he just wasn't happy with it. He didn't accept it from me. So I came back to return the dates, and now the seller won't take them back. So she's sitting there crying. No one's going to listen to me. So the Imam says, okay, where? Go to the seller and says, listen, Fear God. This lady's she's a slave. She's a worker. She doesn't have any kind of autonomy of her own. Just give her money back. Take your dates. It's not a big deal. It just so happened this man didn't know who the Imam was. And it was during the time of his rule. It's not like some other time. Didn't know who the Imam was. And very, like a good salesman says, this is none of your business. Who are you? And the account says he pushed the Imam back on his chest. So essentially just give him a nice little push. Get out of here. The other shopkeepers and the people that were around knew this was the Imam. He kept on saying, what are you doing? Do you know who this is? Oh, no, I didn't know. Oh, Ya Allah, quickly took the money out, gave it back to the woman, took the dates back, kind of fell on his hands and knees and started begging the Imam, please, 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 forgive me. I didn't know. Imam says, that part of it's not a big deal. You don't know who I was. If you want me to be happy, you want me to forgive you, you want me to look past you, you want me to be pleased with you, my pleasure is found in you dealing with people equitably, you being kind and fair to people. You don't have to please me. Just carry yourself in a way that others are also at ease when they deal with you. This is the example that Imam Ali alayhi sets for us in his establishment of justice and his practice of justice. Now for us in this tamassuk, Alhamdulillah alladhi ja'alana min al-mutamassikin wilayat alayna min al-mu'minin. Tamassuk, again going back to the statement of Imam Khomeini, he says it's not a matter that we say with the tongue. It's a practical matter. It's a practical issue. To what extent are we able to practice this in our lives? To what extent are we committed to living lives that are rooted in justice? That's what it means to be mutamassik. So again, Ghadir serves as an opportunity for us to celebrate. For sure, the beginning, middle, and end of it is a celebration. But a celebration of what? A celebration of being in a relationship with a person and in a community that is founded on just living. If you take that element away, then what remains? Well, when he said it's a facade, it is just an exaggeration. It is not a truthful statement. He says it very clearly. It is not a truthful statement. So on this day that we celebrate the Eid, we want to be of those who are truthful in this statement, in this greeting that we exchange with one another. And we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this grand blessing, that we are of those people who are not just familiar with the Ahlul Bayt, that are not just in love with the Ahlul Bayt, but also those who may, kind of say, aspiring towards being in a relationship with Ahlul Bayt through the relationship of wilaya, inshallah. Walhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على. Inshallah, I think we've approached the time for Salat al-Maghribain. Inshallah, we'll prepare, for Salat, and those who need to make or renew their wudu, inshallah, they can do so, and then we'll set up the lines for prayer.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما الله أكبر أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صل على محمد أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن عليا حجة الله اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد أشهد أن عليا ولي الله اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله الله
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله اللهم صل عليه أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله أشهد أن عليا حجة الله عليه الصلاة الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألهاكم التكاثر حتى زرتم المقابر كلا سوف تعلمون ثم كلا سوف تعلمون كلا لو تعلمون علم اليقين لترون الجحيم ثم لترونها عين اليقين ثم لتسألن يومئذ عن النعيم الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده رب صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر
الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. كذلك الله ربنا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. اللهم اجعل محياي محيا محمد وآل محمد ومماتي ممات محمد وآل محمد. صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. سبحان الله والحمد لله لا إله إلا الله. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله. استغفر الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآله. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. يا لطيف ارحم عبدك الضيف. الله أكبر. الحمد لله كما هو أهله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إني أسألك موجبات رحمتك وعزائم مغفرتك والنجاة من النار ومن كل بلية والفوز بالجنة والرضوان في دار السلام وجوار نبيك محمد عليه وآله السلام. اللهم ما بنا من نعمة فمنك، لا إله إلا أنت، أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.
Just a reminder that as I'm traveling, my prayers will be shortened. So after the tashahhud in the second rakah, please continue your own salat. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم استغفر الله ربي واتوب اليه الله اكبر الله اكبر اشهد ان لا اله الا الله اشهد ان لا اله الا الله اشهد ان محمدا رسول الله اللهم صل على محمد أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم أشهد أن عليا حجة الله عليه صلوات الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا أنزلناه في ليلة القدر وما أدراك ما ليلة القدر. ليلة القدر خير من 1000 شهر. تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها بإذن ربهم من كل أمر. سلام هي حتى مطلع الفجر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سبحان الله. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. الله أكبر الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. كذلك الله ربنا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. اللهم عجل في فرج مولانا صاحب العصر والزمان واجعلنا من خير أنصاره وأعوانه والمستشهدين بين يديه وانمن علينا برضاه. صل على محمد وآله الأطهار. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سبحان الله. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. الله أكبر الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. رب صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.